The narrator describes an orb that can transform into anything it encounters. Cast to earth, it first became a rock, then a wolf. The experience made it conscious, experiencing walking, cold, and discomfort. The orb, as a wolf named Joan, found an abandoned village where a boy lived alone. This boy's community had abandoned the village due to scarcity, leaving him behind 5 years ago, due to an injured leg from Joan's bite. To remember them, he drew everyone's faces on his cabin wall. The boy later decides to find his community, but falls through thin ice, injuring his leg. So he returned to the village, injured, feverish, and died after asking the orb wolf to remember him. The orb then transformed into the boy, requiring environmental stimulation to change its shape. They struggled with human functions and died multiple times, but regenerated every time, improving the speed of its regeneration. A young girl named March lives in a village in the Ninaha region, and her friend and chosen sister, Perona, attempts to prevent her from being used as a sacrifice to a local god, Oniguma. Despite her efforts, March is chosen for the ritual, and a government official, Hayase, is tasked with guarding her. When Perona attempts to intervene, she is captured. While trying to escape, March accidentally encounters the orb boy, who March names Fushi, which means immortal. She even tries to teach him some human mannerisms. Hayase ends up finding March and takes her back to the sacrifice area. Perona finds March on the sacrificial stand and tries to protect her against Onigumi, the godlike bear, but is pushed off of her. Luckily, Fushi walks in and fights the bear while continually regenerating. The ordeal ends with Fushi knocking out the bear, going up to March, and utilizing the words that she taught him. Hayase decides that there's more value in Fushi than in March. So March, Peruna, Fushi, and their village's shaman, Pyron, are taken to Yanomi. On the journey, they learn the real purpose behind the rituals. It's a way for the Yanomi village to control the Ninana people. As motherly March helps Fushi to transition back to his boy form, he continues to talk in fragments. Upon arriving at the Yanomi village, they're drugged and Fushi is revealed to the public as immortal, leading officials to experiment on him. The other three are locked away in cells until Fushi is thrown in the same cell as March. Hayase has March take care of Onigumi, the bear, because no one else is willing to. During this time, Fushi continues to communicate pain through the phrases "it hurts" and gratitude through "thank you so much," leading March to realize that Fushi is conveying the bear's thoughts as she helps fix its injuries. Sadly, the bear, known as Oniguma, dies and the vessel opens, implying a new transformation for Fushi. Perona, Pyron, Fushi, and March escape the prison, but they're detected by Hayase and her guards. During the chase, March jumps to protect Perona from an arrow and gets fatally shot. As Fushi defends March and turns into Oniguma to face Hayase, March succumbs to her wounds, leaving a grieving Perona and Fushi. In the spirit realm, March is initially overjoyed to be reunited with her family. However, she quickly realizes that she has died and left Fushi behind. She witnesses Perona's determined attempt to avenge her by killing Hayase. Perona even tries to end her own life, but March communicates to Fushi to stop her. Fushi, having adopted Onigumi's form, escapes with Perona. When they reach March's village, they find out it's been 6 months since Hayase initially took March. With pursuers from Yanomi still on their tails, Perona encourages Fushi to run and fight for his life. In a final showdown with Hayase, Peruna uses the same arrow that was once lodged in Fushi to shoot and wound Hayase. After March's death, Fushi travels through the wilderness, changing forms depending on the situation. He finds Pyron struggling for food and uses his March form to collect fruit, demanding she thank him for the food after helping out. Pyron decides to teach Fushi how to be human as they travel to her lover's village. During a camp, they are attacked by branches called knockers. These branches steal Fushi's forms and corresponding memories. Thus, when Fushi is attacked in his boy form, he loses the ability to take that form again. A cloak being appears and explains that the knockers are Fushi's enemies. He must defeat them and regain his lost form and memories. The figure also reveals that the knockers' core must be destroyed to defeat them. They have been designed to weaken Fushi by stealing his vessels. In March's form, Fushi is able to separate the knocker's core and recovers the last form of the boy and Oniguma. The cloak figure finally reveals itself to be Fushi's creator, bent on a goal to preserve the world. Fushi and Pyron reach Takunaha village, where they meet her lover, Sakaji, also known as Boozman, and Gugu, a young boy that Boozman treated due to a horrific log accident. They start working on improving Fushi's abilities, including transforming and producing objects and understanding fundamental human emotions. Rin, a girl with an initial crush on Fushi and a connection with Gugu, also joins them, not knowing that Fushi is immortal. Turns out she's the girl that Gugu helped by finding her dog and gave him a unique, expensive ring as a thank you. He also saved her from a rolling log, which led to Sakaji healing him and taking him in. But their peace is disrupted when the knockers attack, stealing more forms from Fushi. To protect his newfound family, Gugu risks his life to defeat the knockers using a peculiar ability to breathe fire, thanks to the alcohol Sakaji had stored in his belly when he was injured. Fushi eventually regains his stolen forms, and Rin's parents come to take her back home. In an attempt to live a normal life like Gugu, Fushi doesn't transform for 4 years, and ends up aging in that form. When Gugu's gambling, abandoning older brother Shin visits them and is rightfully pushed away by Gugu, he asks Rin to give him back a ring that belonged to Gugu. This leads Rin to realize that Gugu was the boy who saved her dog long ago. During Rin's 16th birthday party, Gugu's truth about saving Rin unfolds. Just as she's about to return his feelings, the knockers show up, leading to a destructive battle and a sad ending when Gugu dies, saving Rin. Grieving Gugu's death, and to avoid the threat of knockers, Fushi decides to leave his newfound family. Pyron decides to join him, and he tells her of the cloaked being. Despite learning of Gugu's death, Rin refuses her arranged marriage and chooses to live a life dedicated to her lost love. Fushi and Pyron's journey lead them to being tricked by Tonari and led on a boat to Jananda Island, a former prison but now a town. Given that Pyron was a wanted criminal in the past, she is separated and locked away from Fushi. So Fushi reunites with Tonari in hopes to win a battle royale and gain their freedom. Fushi, who had promised not to use his powers, is forced to reveal them during a fight for survival. The final battle ends up being between Fushi and Hayase to the death. During their fight, Fushi learns Hayase murdered Perona and her village's people. Hayase ultimately wins the fight by drugging Fushi. Turns out she's the one who convinced Tonari to trick Pyron and Fushi onto the wrong boat. Given that Hayase is now the winner and the ruler of the island, she transfers her power to Tonari, who decides to have all children under 7 board a ship off the island, as well as Nand, a villager that Fushi promised to help. Learning from their previous losses, the knockers decide to reanimate the dead from the village corpse pit and are underground. Tonari and her friends leave the ship to make it back on the island and help the village against the knockers. They end up winning, but sadly, they end up losing Yupa, Mia, and Uroi to the knockers. Sander and Tonari decide to stay and fix the island. Fushi takes Hayase with him and boats off. Hayase confesses her love for Fushi, but he rejects her and leaves her tied up on her own boat while he creates his own to follow Tonari's owl, Ligard, to shore. In the end, a knocker attacks Hayase. Fushi bumps into Pyron in a diner, but he decides not to approach her, thinking she would be better off without him. The cloaked being appears again, warning Fushi that whether he stays with Pyron or not, she will die, either from old age or from the knockers. Despite these facts, Fushi can't stop himself from wanting to be around Pyron. As disguised Fushi tries to help Pyron one last time, she joyfully realizes it's him. They travel together again, but Pyron's health starts to deteriorate as she begins to lose her sense of direction. In her final moments, Pyron asks the cloaked being to be reborn as something useful to Fushi. He warns her that she may not retain her identity, but she still agrees, touching an orb in the spirit realm under her death. Pyron leaves a note on Fushi's paper, encouraging him to dream and pursue what he desires in life. As decades pass, Fushi continues to live a quiet life. Fushi spends about 40 years on a secluded island and decides to finally leave when the knockers attack a nearby island. He joins forces with Hisami, the granddaughter of Hayase, who seems to bear a knocker in her arm, and is part of a group called Guardians that spreads the knowledge of Fushi the Immortal. Despite battling the knockers, Fushi manages to keep his identity secret by allowing the Guardians to scope out the area first. Fushi meets 2 people that warn him of the Guardians' intentions, stating that they just want to own him. Hisami invites them all to dinner and poisons them with a sleeping drug. But the woman is not affected, so she tries to poison her with other types. Turns out the woman is Tonari, and the man with her is Sanders. Tonari tries to kill the knocker in Hisami's arm, but is attacked by it, ultimately leading to her slow death. Sanders tells Fushi that Tonari built her body to be impervious to poisons for him to take her form when she dies. But Sanders promised Tonari to not tell Fushi who they were, but Fushi later realizes it was her. As Fushi continues to journey over the years, every generation of the Guardians find him, until he meets Kahaku, the 6th successor of Hayase, and the first male. Fushi also learns that the children of Hayase's lineage have been passing down their knocker for generations, allowing it to live off their blood and listen to them. Together, they are captured by Bonchien, the ghost-seeing prince of Eurelis' kingdom. Bonchien had sought out Fushi to gain recognition from his father. They decide to go with him. Fushi is asked to save a girl, but is unable to help, and she dies. To provide the family with comfort, he provides a body double of her and hopes it'll help them grieve. After he left, Bonchien finds out that the girl came back to life, but Fushi and Bonchien get captured and subjected to an ordeal by the Church of Bennett, who sees Fushi as a demonic entity. Fushi is encased in a molten iron-filled iron cube and burnt repeatedly, slowly regenerating every time. Fushi is finally able to escape and free Chabo, a child caught stealing, and Toto, Bonchien's assistant. He left behind body doubles so the church would think they died. Bonchien refuses to leave with them and hopes to fully stop the church. Bonchien is then subjected to a public execution, but is actually saved by Fushi at the last minute by utilizing the sleeping drug he most likely learned from Tonari's journal. Bonchien was forced to change his identity and live in secret. Bonchien departs the castle to fight the church, leaving Toto and Chaba behind. The knocker and Kahaku's arm communicate their desire to fight against the cloaked figure, viewing it as an oppressor and death as freeing the soul. The knockers launch an attack on the Church of Bennett, with Fushi fighting against them. Fushi meets Haku and Bonshi at the knockers' specified meeting point, where they devise a plan to fight back. He loses many of his forms in the process, but is saved by a horse created by a piece of him by the cloaked figure. But they're deceived by the knockers, leading to Fushi accusing Kahaku's knocker of treachery. Fushi also learns to sense the knockers by creating objects that extend from him and sensing everything that touches them. But they receive another message from the knockers, hinting at an attack on the populated city of Renru in a year. They decide to have Bonchien go to warn and prep the city, and have Kahaku travel back to Eurelis and gather more troops. Fushi spends this time preparing for the upcoming battle by learning how to replicate a huge ship. During this time, he rescues a clay girl named Echo from a circus that took her from her village that was destroyed by knockers, and takes care of her. During the first 3 months, Fushi is able to test out the theory of utilizing long connected things to feel everything around him. The trio meet back up and head to Renru. Bonchien introduces Fushi to 3 people, Kai, Messar, and Hilo, whom he stated are willing to be turned immortal to assist the upcoming battle. This angers Fushi because he doesn't want to lose people and had just found out about his resurrection power from Bonchien, so he wasn't that confident with this new power. But they proceed with their plan. They manage to source a city map from Messar's connection, the princess, to prepare for the battle with the knockers in Renru. Fushi repairs a collapsed water wheel house for a local couple and begins building a replicated version of Sakiji's house that they plan to use for a base. Before long, many other villagers request Fushi to rebuild their home, to be secure against the knockers, not knowing that by doing this, he is able to make a connection to everything in and around each building. Using his powers to build a network connection to himself, Fushi starts sensing everyone's pains, emotions, and sensations, and starts to realize that this can be very overwhelming. Meanwhile, to ward off suspicion about his healing abilities during a combat tournament and the speed of which he is rebuilding, Fushi reveals his true identity to the villagers. They accept him and appreciate his assistance in the form of various village improvements and medical help. The Princess of Renru shows her face and introduces Fushi to the king, expressing her trust in him despite the Church of Bennett's assertions that he is a demon. With only 2 weeks until the knockers attack, Fushi continues his preparations around the city. Fushi plants some of his vessel bodies around the town, connected to each other via rope, intending to transfer his consciousness between them during the upcoming battle as a tactical measure. Thanks to Bonchien's spirit-seeing abilities, Mezar, Kai, Hilo, and Bonchien call upon the cloaked being. They find out that Fushi will eventually replace him. Feeling that he's not getting enough information, Mezar runs and stabs the cloaked being, thus seeing that he can bleed. The final battle happens, and Fushi combats the knockers with the help of fellow villagers. When Fushi falls unconscious during the fight due to exhaustion, he is cared for by Echo and others, while Bonchien and Kahaku fight off the invaders. During the assault, March's vessel falls from its location and is disconnected from Fushi, and to our surprise, comes back to life. Fushi loses several forms and later observes a red handprint similar to March's. This motivates him to recreate March's form, but fails due to her already being alive. The villagers accuse Fushi of murder when they see him kill Hilo, a fighter infected by the knockers. But Fushi actually reincarnates him, along with Kai and Messer, so they can keep fighting. Fushi realizes that they're in a tough spot and admits to Kahaku that he wants everything to end. Suddenly, Kahaku's left hand, controlled by a knocker, attacks Fushi, leading to him losing every form and returning to a stone, and losing his human consciousness. Bonqian and March strive to reactivate Fushi's consciousness by appealing to his senses and stir his memories. Echo is infected by a knocker and jumps off a tower, but survives due to the knocker transforming her arm. Bonqian ends up saving Fushi by sacrificing himself, allowing Fushi to use him as a vessel. As Fushi regains consciousness, he sees all the spirits connected to him, due to Bonqian's ghost-seeing ability, and since he can see them, he can bring them back to life. He guides them to the knockers using his network. Kahaku fights against Echo's knocker before Kai intervenes and kills the knocker. Fushi provides a healthy body for Echo and resurrects Xian and Yuroi, increasing the city's fighters. The knockers realize they're losing and retreat, marking the end of the intense battle. The princess ended up being infected by a knocker and dies. Mezar requests Fushi to bring her back, but he is unable to because her soul has chosen to leave this realm, and he is only able to bring those back who choose to stay in this realm. Post-battle, Fushi decides to remain in the city and spread his neural network around to ensure peace, at the cost of his consciousness. He aspires to resurrect his friends in a peaceful world as a mean of making amends. Fushi gives back Bonqian his body and relocates him to his family's castle. March gets sad and doesn't want to grow up without Fushi, so Tonari gives Hilo a poison to give to March to pass peacefully by Fushi. Kahaku sacrifices himself at the Church of Bennett with explosives. Tonari writes legends about Fushi. Kai returns to Euralis, living a normal life before succumbing to the same disease as his father. Hilo, traveling to spread Tonari's writing, is killed by Fushi's anti-faction. Mazar died from his excessive unhealthy lifestyle, and Gugu chooses a peaceful death after being badly injured in a fight. Tonari passes away in Jananda, and her body is carried by Fushi to her final resting place. Bonqian, having become a close aide to the king, spends his final days with Fushi by his side. It's suggested that he ended up with Toto, also known as Iris, and had children and grandchildren. In the closing scene, we get to see Fushi exploring a modern, peaceful city covered in his vines, expressing joy and relief that he indeed made it peaceful. Season 2 is releasing this October, and we get to see all the new abilities Fushi will learn. Does Fushi know how to live in a new modern world? Do knockers still exist? Will the cloaked being finally free Fushi from his task? And will we see Pyron again? Let me know what you're most excited for in the comments below. And as always, don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell to join our growing community of anime fans. And until next time, bye!